You realize now you made a big mistake hiring the attorney that you did. And now you want a divorce from your attorney, not your spouse, from your lawyer. Can you do that? You want to know the answer? Come join me for a moment as I share with you some great information. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney, and the answer is yes, you can. And there are a couple different ways to do that. So let's say you have a medical malpractice case, and you hired the best attorney you could find that you believe would be able to represent you in your particular case. Now, during the course of your lawsuit, you begin to realize that this attorney is not responding to your emails. He's not responding to your phone calls. He's not being transparent to show you, to tell you what's going on behind the scenes. And now you're getting frustrated and angry. And now you make an appointment to go see him. And you sit down, you ask him those questions that are concerning to you. And the answers are still not satisfying to you. And you realize, you know what? You're not the right one for me. I need to find somebody else. So there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can put your hand up and say, hey, Mr. Attorney, stop doing what you're doing. I'm going to get another attorney. That's number one. Number two is you actually go out and find another attorney, one who believes you have a valid case, and importantly, one who's willing to take you on as a client. Because not every attorney will take you on as a client. And there's a whole evaluation process that goes into that. So then the attorney, if he realizes that this is a case he'd like to take on and that you have a valid case, now what he's going to do is he's going to send off a letter to attorney number one. He's going to say, hey, attorney number one, I am now attorney number two, hired by this client. You are to stop all work. Stop. Don't do any more work on this case. You are to transfer the entire file to me. Now, that's easy enough said, right? But before attorney number one wants to go ahead and deliver the entire file to attorney number two, they have to clear up the issue of, okay, attorney number one paid out all this money for disbursements, for expenses on the case. At the end of the case, if they are successful, the attorney then gets that money reimbursed to him before he gets his fee and before the client gets his share of the money. But what happens, though, when attorney number two comes in and now says, hey, send us the file? Well, attorney number one says, wait a second, I'm more than happy to send you the file, but somebody's got to pay me for my expenses. You're taking the case, you're taking the file, that's okay. Pay me my expenses. They could be hundreds of dollars, it could be thousands and thousands of dollars. Will attorney number two pay the expenses? The answer is, there are two options here. The first answer is yes. Attorney number two will turn around and say, yes, this case is worth it. I understand that we have a great likelihood of success. So therefore, I'm going to put up the money initially, it could be thousands of dollars, and I'm going to repay attorney number one. And now, if we are ultimately successful, then attorney number two will then get those expenses repaid to him at the end of the case. But many attorneys are going to turn around and say, you know what? We don't know what the outcome's going to be. We don't know what your likelihood of success will be. So because of that, I want to hedge my bet, and instead, I want attorney number one to agree to accept his money if we, number two, attorney number two, is ultimately successful in your case a few years down the road. Now, a lot of attorneys don't want to do that. Why not? Because once the client has taken their case, taken their file away from them, a lot of attorneys don't want to sit around and wait for years and years to get their expenses reimbursed to them. So now what do you have? You have a conflict between attorney number one and attorney number two. And if the two attorneys behind the scenes cannot reach an agreement about which of those two options to exercise, now they have to get the judge involved, and the judge now has to intervene. Sometimes it comes down to what you typically see in the playground about two kids fighting over the same ball. And now a teacher has to come in and intervene and now try and resolve a quick dispute. The judge has to do the same exact thing. And I have to tell you something. This is a little insider secret that nobody talks about. Judges hate getting involved between attorneys now when they're trying to evaluate who should pay the expenses, who should not. Why? Because the client's best interests are not being served while the two attorneys fight it out amongst themselves, just turning over the file. That's problem number one. The second issue that may arise is the two attorneys, attorney number one and attorney number two, they may disagree on the amount of the attorney's fee each one is to get if you are ultimately successful. So you should know that when you go to attorney number two, there is still only one attorney's fee in this case. So if you are successful in a medical malpractice case, the attorney will then get repaid for his expenses. There's only one attorney's fee, whether you've gone to one lawyer, two lawyers, three, or more, only one fee. It's now a matter of, okay, what does each lawyer get as their percentage of legal work that they did on your particular case? So now each attorney has to justify exactly what they did. So attorney number one will have to justify to attorney number two and say, listen, I did a full investigation. I met with the witnesses. I met with my medical expert. I now went ahead and started the lawsuit. I did the following things from a legal standpoint in order to move this case forward. And clearly that attorney is entitled to a fee. But the question becomes, what percentage? Will he be entitled to a quarter of the fee, a third of the fee, half of the fee? Has he gotten an offer to settle the case? If so, he might be entitled to an amount of money for that settlement. And now attorney number two may only be working for a fee for anything above that settlement offer that he's able to accomplish. So there are a lot of little twists and turns, but again, if the two attorneys cannot agree on the percentage of the fee that they are earning, now the judge has to get involved again. And remember what I said before, judges typically don't like getting involved in this internal fee dispute. And by the way, before you decide to switch attorneys and call me and ask if I could take over your case, you need to know right now that I do not take on cases that have been started by other attorneys. That's just a policy that I have. A lot of other attorneys don't have the same policy, and they are eagerly willing and able to take on cases started by other attorneys. So if you have questions about the process, what I encourage you to do is seek out attorney number two to see if he can answer your questions, to see if he can resolve your issues, and importantly, to see if he's willing to take you on as a client. Well, that's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.